Welcome to the Elite FTS Strength Plus podcast, educating and outfitting the strongest athletes around the world.
We've got the Fitness Professional Summit coming up, I believe October 21st, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pumped because I'll still be around for that in October. And I've got the speaker guest list here, and I was wondering if you'd be comfortable if I just name off each name, if you'd be willing to do like a sentence just to describe your relationship or the impact that person's had on you. Okay, so Rachel Balkovec.
She is the first female Major League Baseball strength coach to ever be hired. So that alone speaks volumes for what she brings to the table. You know, her history before that, you know, working with the teams and the athletes that she did, why she got there. You know, so just being a female, navigating their way through the strength and conditioning field is filled with adversity, because it's getting better because of people like her, a male-dominated, you know, what do I want to say, workplace, environment.
There you go. There you go.
So it's really hard to crack through, but because of her, you know, and others like her, it's become much easier for women to break through and to get positions like that, which is extremely important for many reasons. You know, I don't want to sit here and say that, you know, all female strength coaches I've seen are smarter than the males, but, you know, I can stack up a bunch of them, you know, and there's a lot of males that have a really hard time filling the same experience and education and credentials that they do. So to me, it's great to see that this is happening, but from her standpoint, for her to be able to share that, you know, and to be able to tell her story and to be able to, you know, inspire others to follow the same passion that she had, so they're not diverted, you know, into a different direction if that's what they really want to do, because it's possible, you know, and she proved it, and, you know, others since have proved it. So that's what's going to be great about her is, you know, with any prosperity comes adversity. So I think that those stories of adversity and how to overcome it, how to be patient, how to work hard, you know, and the steps that are necessary on when to be patient, when to be assertive, I can't answer those, you know, for a female, nor can any other male coach. She can. And that, I think, is going to be awesome for the female attendants. From the male attendants, she knows strength and conditioning. You know, so anybody that's been around as long as she's been around at the success that she has, you can learn from that. And being a business summit, you know, she does a lot of, you know, personal branding with speaking and so forth as well. And she's in the media, obviously, quite a bit. So there's a lot to be learned from her, just from PR, you know, and human resources and all that as well. So really looking forward to hearing her speak.
That's exciting. I am as well. Let's go Mark Mangan next on the list here.
Man, I met Mark, I don't even know how long ago, but one of our sponsors at the time introduced me to him, and he was just getting into it. I mean, he was a competitor, or I think he was a competitor at the time, former football player, and, you know, wanted to train athletes. And I had a little mentoring thing with him out here where we talked and kind of, I'm not going to say I guided his vision, but, you know, I get people to kind of tell me what their vision is, and then, you know, go do it, you know. Yeah. And he had a really good understanding of where he wanted to go. And this was, I wish I could name the date, but I would say probably a decade ago. And he did it, you know, and it's another real cool story to be able to see, you know, that where he's at, where he's going, he's, you know, still hungry to move forward. So again, from a personal branding standpoint, it's a whole nother story that when it comes to business, it's all about, a big part of any business is, what is your story? You know, why are you doing what you're doing, and how can you relate that, where people can relate to that? And he's one of those they all
Yes.
kind of fit that, but then back it up with the training intelligence as well as the business intelligence to be able to move and grow forward. The tricky thing in this industry is to move forward, you have to have the training intelligence. Usually, for most, they have that first. And then you don't know shit about business. Then you have to learn the business intelligence to be able to, move forward. And then whatever direction you end up going into, if it's coaching, it's, training's still going to be huge. If it's owning and operating a training center or facility, then business is going to become higher than the training. And those are some of the lessons that he'll be able to pass on, to the attendants as well.
So something you mentioned or hit on there was that you kind of served as a mentor for him at one point or another. Did I catch that right?
Yeah, I sat down with him for 3 or 4 hours.
Okay, excellent. As far as someone that's young and maybe struggling, finding exactly where they're headed, or their hedgehog concept, as I like to refer to it, what approach would you take if you were that person to find a mentor? Because I feel like a lot of people in my position, a lot of younger people, that's something that's missing.
It is, and it's hard because the people willing to mentor are already busy, with their own staff and everything else. So I can only really speak for myself personally. I used to sell services, a mentor weekend service that, I think it was $3,000 or something like that. And I felt confident in that price because I knew one of two things. I was either going to be able to help them grow $3,000 of profit and revenue to cover the cost, or I was going to help them save $3,000 worth of mistakes that they were going to do. And in every case, that was more than 4 times the value, but they were really fucking exhausting for me. Okay. And because it was between 36 and 40 hours over 3 days. So
that's a pretty intense.
Yes, and I never wanted more than one person unless they had a trusted staff with them, because reviewing financials is part of this. Okay. So I don't want to have 4 different business owners out here and here's their balance sheet and profit and loss state. It's none of anybody else's fucking business. It's really not even mine. Yeah. It's only mine because I'm helping them to make sure that they're on the right track and there's certain correlations that fit where they should be. So there's a lot of effort that goes into what I was doing with them, because you got to establish the values. That you need to teach them why they're doing what they're doing, as I talked about before, because that's huge. If they don't know that, they're fucked. If they don't know what their core values are, they don't know how to make a decision. So there's so much that goes into it before you even talk about marketing strategies or branding or any of that. And so it's a lot. So it's like every time I did one, I felt good because I felt that, the value was far more than what I offered, but at the same time, I didn't want to ever do another one again because it just fucking wrecked me. Seminars wear me out, but these fucking wrecked me because you have to think, you have to think so hard because I'm trying to extract things they don't want to tell me because that's what I really need to know. Yeah. And then come up with ideas that they're going to buy into because I don't know the answers. I'm trying to get the answers out of them. They know the answers, but I got to get them out. And so it's hard because it's not like a normal conversation where you can kind of like, phase out of it and phase into it. It's like, fuck, you're focused on everything, looking for a clue, and you're doing that for 2 days at a time. And so then you're going home and writing down everything you can remember and trying. So every time I did it, I increased the price, and people would keep signing up, and it kept increasing the price, and it got to like 10 grand, and then people quit signing up for it. And then I said, okay, fuck it, I don't want to do them. I'll just do them for team members of Elite FTS, because that's a benefit of being part of the team and benefit of the staff. So it's already, now with them I have weeks, years, a large period of time. I have the time for them to try something, to make a mistake, and then show them how to learn from it. So it can be done a lot easier. But there's 50 people. I mean, and it's not stringent mentoring with all 50. It's, when the issues pop up, or usually when they show initiative, it's going to be pretty intense for a couple weeks, because I want to see that I'm pushing them a little hard, and I want to see what initiative they're going to be able to push back. And if they don't, then I know they're really not serious about what they're doing. And I want them to discover a lot of themselves. So I would say the best way to do that would be to intern, because at least you can get FaceTime and get to know the person.
Yes.
And then to be assertive, to be able to find some way to communicate with the person, because a lot of times, if you're running a business, there's so many things going on at one time, and there's not a whole lot of FaceTime with interns. If it's forced, like you found a way to force it on me.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Then I'm taking full advantage.
Then you create the narrative.
Yes.
So if you can create the narrative, which becomes that first step, the second, third, fourth, fifth, that's easy. It's the first step, which is the hardest to create, because it takes a lot of initiative on the part of the person who's looking for the mentor. You just can't email somebody and say, look, will you be my mentor? You got to strategically think, how can you get in front of this person, to be able to just have a conversation so they know who you are, and then follow up over a period of time and kind of go from there. And then once you kind of lock down on one, and if they fit where you're going, then you keep that contact, and then you start looking for others, because a mentor in time becomes an advisor, in my opinion. And you have to have, if there's one thing that's helped me more than anything in business, it's the advisors that I have. And they don't think the same way that I do. And I have a couple that think fucking totally opposite of what I do. And those are conversations I don't even like to have, but I know I have to have, because they're not in this industry, they're in different industries, and then they can look at it and say, what the fuck are you talking about? Then I have to explain, this is not a normal industry, but every industry is different than every other industry.
No,
there's no such thing as just business.
Yes.
It's all different, but there's a lot of principles that carry over from one to the other, and there's a lot of insight that somebody outside of your industry can bring, especially if you're having an issue that you need help with. They're going to look at it and they may say, why is this even an issue?
Yes.
So that alone pisses you off, but it makes you step back and say, okay, is it? Is it really?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not, other times it is. And then they can kind of help you see it from such a different perspective that it's ridiculous.
Kind of opens it all up, I would imagine. Something I wanted to mention, I came to the John Meadows, I believe it was an underground training session last fall in October, and you got up after the seminar and mentioned a couple of tips or things, and you served as a mentor in a weird way for me at that point. And I know there were probably 50 of us in here, but I took a lot away from that. And I wish, because I've been here a couple times to different things, and I wish I would have, and what I'm urging, anyone that's in that position, just talk to these people. Because the mistake that I made in those, I could have been 2 or 3 steps ahead of where I am now if I would have taken some initiative, in October.
Yes, there's very few people, very few that won't talk to you.
Yes.
And if they don't, they're a dick, and you don't want to be talking to them anyhow. So you're vetting out anyhow.
Yeah.
So there's no loss. There's no negative in what you're suggesting, because it's a best case scenario each way. Because it could be somebody that you really want to mentor you, but then you find out this guy's a dick. Yep. Well, then you don't. And now you're done, and you move on to the next, other than trying to keep chasing the same path. But it takes initiative.
Yes.
And that is that's a key indicator to anybody that you're going to want to help or that is going to want to be a mentor. Because if you don't have the initiative, then we're all wasting our fucking time helping the person. Because you can't help on initiative. You know, you can say you need to be more proactive, you need to be proactive, but
you get it or you don't.
How do I do that?
Yeah.
You know, I'd have to find the guy in the crowd that's sitting in the corner by himself, not talking to anybody, go out of my way to find them and then convince them that, look, you need to be and take more initiative.
Yeah. Come and talk to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
yeah.
There are some people that will do that, you know, and I've done that at times. But the odds of somebody doing that pretty much slim to none compared to the person who's going to come up. Now, the person that's got overly aggressive initiative isn't going to do any better than the person, probably do worse than the person sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think once the person does take that initiative, they are taking a next step as far as their mental or their vision, you know, for what they're starting to put it together, in my opinion, which is where I'm kind of at right now. So we'll go down the list here and continue. JL Holdsworth.
I mean, I've known JL since we trained at Westside, so I knew JL actually before he came and trained at Westside. I can tell JL stories for hours, but JL, I don't even know where to begin with him, but I mean, here's a guy that came to town and lived in his car, you know, so just to train at Westside. So let's forget about the training and just talk about the business aspect. He came to town with nothing. All right, now he's got 2 sport training facilities that are doing very well. You know, the RPR classes that he's doing are doing very well, and he's become a prominent name in the industry. You know, so I know his whole story because I've known him the whole time, and he's helped me as much as I've helped him. So while I can say I've had the same conversations with him that I had with Mark, I've also extracted a ton from him because he's become one of our target, you know, market. So I learned more about that market from him, you know, than really any other resource because he's smack dab right in the middle of it. But nothing was given to him. He had to work for fucking everything. It made a ton of, I'm real big on people making mistakes. I'd rather people not, but if you don't make the mistakes I made, you're gonna make your own. Yep. If I can save somebody from making the mistakes I made, then that's fine. But he's learned from them all and continues to learn now. So just his presence should be motivation enough to show somebody that, you know, they can do it. But his story again is going to be able to let people know that it's not so fucking easy either. You know, it's not the easy story everybody thinks it is. And we are, as you said, we are moving into a facility within the next month or 2. It's taken 20 years to be able to move into a facility that we're going to own. 20 fucking years. You know,
I'm only 26.
That's not really a great success story.
Yeah.
All right. So there's been a lot of shit just to be able to get there. Other companies rise faster, grow bigger, and all the other kind of stuff. Those are outliers, in my opinion, because most companies fail within a year. You know, then out of those that survive, they're lucky to make it 3 years. You know, very few last 10. You know, even less last 20. I mean, it just drops from them on out. So it's being able to learn from the mistakes and being able to not just learn from your own mistakes, but to be able to learn from the mistakes of others. And that's actually taken me probably 20 years to learn. You know, I'm just now to a point where I'll spend more time trying to learn from mistakes that other people have done instead of just putting my head down and saying, fuck it, let's see what happens. And I don't think that's being more conservative, it's just being smarter. You know, so JL he's got a great story, and his business mind is, especially over the past 5 years, is for the person who wants to open a training center is second to none. I meet very few people who are as profitable per square foot as what he is. You know, when I talk to other people and they tell me what their revenue is per month, it's jails is 6 times as high. You know, and these other people think they're doing well. And I'm like, you know.
Let's put it in perspective. Yeah,
maybe you need to talk to JL.
Yeah. Okay, Joe DeFranco.
Joe's been around for a long time too. He was one of the very first people that I put on the site. He's kind of gone full circle. So, you know, he started when I met him, he was working as a trainer for Parisi's. And then he launched into his own, and his first club was basically a storage room or a closet with 1 rack and a bench in somebody else's gym. And then had a couple other moves before he had the DeFranco Training Center that became the most popular. And then after that, he made one more move into a bigger training center, and then shifted the core business to on it and scaled down. So he can work now with coaches and his certification program and not so much with the athletes. So that's full circle, you know, and anybody that trains athletes or works as a personal trainer, there's gonna come a time where you're just not as passionate of training the athletes, you know, as you once were, or training the clients as you once were. Some people, you know, Buddy Morris, that's his life, you know, he's always going to be that way. Awesome. It's never going to change, you know, but the majority of people, you get burned out from it, and it takes decades, you know, and you bust your ass. I mean, if you're getting burned out from it in 5 years, well, then it's just because you suck and you don't know how to put in the time to actually get what you want. But he got to a position where it was, you know, it was time to, you know, let that part go and focus on making coaches better. And the cool thing about all that was the demand was there. You know, people wanted to learn from him that were the coaches and the trainers in the industry. So it was very wise, you know, for him to do. It's a very smart business move, because his main passion is to help as many people become better coaches as he can, you know, and, you know, that he can do that now, you know, and he wants to help as many athletes as they can. I screwed that up. So
you're good.
Yeah, he got into this field to be able to help athletes get better, and then he grew his business and he grew his online presence to be able to help more athletes. So this pivot that he made into helping coaches is actually a way that he's going to help, instead of the 200 or whatever athletes he was training at his facility, thousands. Yes. Because each coach is going to have their own tribe of athletes that they're working with. So he's in a different part of that life cycle, you know, that people can learn from, you know, to be able to see. Because if you're a personal trainer now working in a training center, working for somebody else, do you see yourself doing that when you're 60 years old? You know, people don't know. I mean, if you're running a training center or you're running a gym and you want to beat your head against the wall, you know, every day, you know, and even so after 10 or 15 years, and it's successful, do you see yourself doing that for the rest of your life? Do you feel trapped? Because you should never feel trapped. You should always kind of, you know, find some kind of enjoyment and love in what you're doing. Well, here's a guy who's, you know, he's there. He can not only tell the story about what it was like to branch out on his own and have to work with 1 rack in a closet, you know, and then build, you know, the training center to a globally known brand, you know, but also kind of a little bit, I don't want to say exit strategy because he's still in it, but have an exit strategy that he does what he loves to do, yeah. You know, and so that's the cool thing about this whole summit is everybody's bringing something different to the table. So it's whoever's going to come is going to find what they're looking for.
Excellent. So we've got Chris Cooper next on the list here.
Chris, I've known on and off for actually longer than I thought I did, and which was really interesting when we spoke, because I'm like, who the fuck, you know, and you know, there's kind of dialogue going back and forth. I'm talking like 20 years, a long fucking time, and it took me a while to be able to remember who the fuck he was. And I spoke at one of his events earlier in the year and was totally impressed with what was coming out of his mouth, you know, and he's got a business where he helps, you know, CrossFit box owners become more profitable, you know, how to run their business. And the things that he was saying were things that you would think you should know, but you don't. You know, it's like, when's the right time to increase pricing? You know, how do you know that? What equations can you use for that? Well, he's got answers for that. You know, when should you expand? When should you, you know, constrict? And, you know, just from listening to him speak there, when we started to throw the ideas together for this, it was, to me, it was a no-brainer. It's like, this guy, he has to be here, because he's going to cover, you know, the number part. You know, he's going to get down to very specific questions that people are going to want to have, and has, I forget how many clients he has, 300 or 1,000 clients or something like that. So he's worked with, you know, hundreds, if not thousands, of gym owners to be able to help them become more profitable. So he's not going to be presented with something he hasn't seen before. People ask me about stuff. Fuck, it's new to me almost every time.
Yeah.
You know, it's not what I do. You know, it's all he does. So he also owns his own gym. I think he had 2, and he just you know, constricted it down into 1. But there again is branching off into a whole other, you know, conversation that's being added to the summit.
All right, next we've got Steve.
Steve has been one of my advisors for over a decade. You know, he worked for a few Fortune 500 companies and mergers and acquisitions. So he's a numbers guy, man. He's the financial guy. So
Gotta have it.
And he understands this industry, because out of all the advisors I have, he's one of the ones I relied on the most, because you have to know your numbers when you're in business. You simply have to know your numbers. Anybody that tells me that they don't know, or they don't give a fuck, or they leave it up to somebody else, is a fucking moron. You have to know your numbers. And he knows it at a level higher than what I know. And he knows what I don't know. You know, I don't even know what I don't even know. You know, that's the void that's being filled with that. And it was a position that we really needed years ago, and that I should have had 10 years ago. But there's also a expense, you know, that comes with, you know, when you start bringing in people at, you know, what they would call C-level, you know, CFOs, CEOs and stuff like that, you don't bring in entry level. You know, you got to bring in somebody that can take the business to an entirely different level, and then have trust and faith in what they're doing. So he can be able to present on not just that aspect of what he's known since he's been here, but he can present on, he's been a part of every big mistake I've ever made. And big has put me out of business big, you know, so he as soon as I would contact him with it, he knows why it happened. You know, it's like, fuck, you know, but these come out of left field, you know, you don't know, because I didn't know what I didn't know. If I knew it, I never would have got hit with it, you know. And so he's able to put those things out there to say, look, these are things that are important. If you don't take care of these things because you don't know about them, they will put you out of business, guaranteed. You know, I was lucky a couple times, just flat out lucky to be able to survive some of the things that I went through.
And going back to kind of the mentorship thing, that's why it's important to evolve those folks that you associate with over time into that advisor role, or in this case, an employee.
Yes.
So I think that kind of brings it full circle a little bit.
Ain't no chillin', ain't no chillin'.